Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be starting the board meeting in 1 minute. 1 minute. So if you're an elementary school student or a middle school student, you can peel yourself off the ceiling.
They're getting ready for
yeah, I know.
Big showcase. Big show.
I didn't even have to tap. Thank you all for coming this evening. I'd like to call to order the Saline Area Schools Board of Education meeting on May 23rd at 6:31. So standing as you are able, please recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Before we get started, we have a brief message from our superintendent, Stephen Lutch.
Okay, I would like to present to Allison Doran in appreciation for serving as the high school student representative to the Saline Board of Education for this past year. She's done a tremendous job. And along with the plaque, the Board of Education is presenting you with a $500 scholarship to apply to Grand Valley.
Allison, I know a few folks at the table may want to say something nice to you while you're getting your picture taken or after.
Jill, how you doing? Yeah.
I hear from a lot of board members around Washtenaw, and every time they pop in to see our board meetings and see what our student representative does, they're absolutely amazed. You say, "What? She has a report?" And I said, "Yeah." And she is responsible for the student showcase. Yeah. What do you guys do? And I said, "Nothing like that." So, well done, Allison. You've raised the bar even higher. And now we are still looking for your replacement. We are still doing interviews for that, so we won't be able to make an announcement tonight.
June 13th.
That's
June
13th. The June 13th meeting.
What about it?
We're going to announce.
Oh, we hope to make the announcement on the June 13th meeting. There we go. So yes, you are irreplaceable, but we'll replace you as soon as we can.
Irreplaceable, but we're working to...
There may be some others who have something to say. Please just pipe right up.
I'll pipe up. Oh, Jenny.
No,
Jenny,
you go ahead. Go ahead.
I already talked to you at the beginning of this meeting, but from the first time that we were doing the interviews and Steve and Julianne and I met you, we were so excited, and you have exceeded expectations as probable, and we wish you all the best. Really proud of you, Allison.
I just wanted to say that I think I met you back in your Pleasant Ridge days. And back then you were Allie, but here we've been calling you Allison. So yes, I think Kat does too. So that's maybe why I say that. But anyways, mutual friend who calls her Allie Doran. Anyways, I just wanted to say that in particular, I have just appreciated your authenticity and how you just positively have showcased the wonderful things that are happening all over the school district. I appreciate the invitations that you have extended to a variety of student groups so that we can get a fuller, clearer picture of what's happening, and your advocacy for things like the blood drive just are really important things that you've been able to share with our entire community. So thank you for your gift of time that you've given us. I know this is a big commitment, and I wish you all of the best at Grand Valley.
I'll chime in one last. Yeah, I also want to echo that and just say I appreciate the fact that like you've been bold when you've wanted to be a little bold, and you've given us insight to the student mind, and that's who we serve, right, ultimately. And so I could tell you from me as a trustee, that insight was always welcomed. It was always useful, and it was always really helpful to me. So thank you.
I'll be quick. Yeah, thank you so much for serving the Board of Education. I do appreciate all the work that you've done, and that you've included, the elementary schools as well and the middle schools. So that's been really helpful. And good luck with everything. And hopefully we'll see you back around.
Well, thank you all. If that's it, we've come to the public comment section. A member of the public may address the board briefly for up to 3 minutes or request to be scheduled on the agenda of a future meeting. Please note that students will be given priority to speak on any topic. On any topic. The first public participation portion of the meeting will be limited to 1/2 hour, 30 minutes normally, and limited to agenda items. A second public participation portion will be offered at the end of the agenda to allow for any other comment. Individuals addressing the board should take into consideration the rules of common courtesy. The public participation portion of the meeting cannot be used to make personal attacks against a board member, a district employee, or a student. So we have one student and one non-student. And Aaliyah? Just press the... I mentioned you had 3 minutes before. Just a heads up, at 1 minute to go or 30 seconds. 30 seconds to go, you'll get the yellow card and the red card when your time is up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Aaliyah Creo-Taylor. I'm a sophomore at Saline High School. I've came here today to speak out the racism that happens in the high school and how it's pushed under the rug. Back in October, I was called a monkey, and instead of acting off of emotion, like most people would, I went and told the school, and later on, she was given 1 day of ISS, and the following 2 days, I made a noise at her, and I was given lunch detention. And ever since then, she has used false accusations as retaliation to get me in trouble. With no proof, I've been suspended now twice from false accusations. And I've also gathered, when I was suspended last, it was 2 weeks ago, I gathered minority statements from students at Saline. And one thing that caught my eye is every single statement said how they feel about Saline pushing everything under the rug. They feel like people don't listen to them. They feel very unheard. And if they are heard, the student who gets the punishment is going to act with retaliation to get the student in trouble. And it's allowed, and it affects students a lot. So while all this has been happening, I have gathered minorities at Saline and made a Black student union. And I plan on helping Saline grow with this and plan on growing as a community, but it all starts at home as well. This behavior, the racism, starts at home, and it affects students so much more than it's talked about, the mental health fact of it, and how hard it is to focus on your academics when you're looked at as a minority instead of a human. It's really hard, actually. I've struggled extremely hard with academics because I just feel very unheard in the school. So in the school, I'm more in self-defense mode than academic mode. And it's been more of a struggle than I could explain. And speaking to the other students who are minorities, they say they deal with the same struggle. I have a friend who's an exchange student from Brazil, and she was telling me, she's like, they're always talking about my accent and telling me I'm not Brazilian because my skin's too white, or they're asking me how to cuss people out, or they're just saying stuff that's uncomfortable. I had a teacher pat her head and tell me, is this how you guys do it when you wear weave? You guys as in who is what I was wondering, but I walked away and reported it to the school, and it was pushed under the rug because she didn't mean it like that, according to the school. And that's what I mean when everything is unheard. Thank you. But I hope we can look at the policies and have something done so that minorities feel like human walking inside of Saline High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaliyah. I'd like to welcome Bridget Corey.
Thank you. Good evening. I am here on behalf of the Saline Education Association, so this will be very quick. Actually, board appreciation is in January, and we are rather late on that, but we didn't want to let the school year go without saying a thank you. I've already talked to Allison. Allison, I'm making it up to you. But I have the distinct privilege of representing the educators here in Saline, and we do not take lightly the work that you do. We know the hours that you put in, the meetings that you attend, the knowledge it takes to run a school, and we are forever really thankful, and we appreciate the partnership that you have extended to us, and we hope that we can continue that in the future. So a small token of our appreciation to send you off for summer. We have made you some nice Saline beach towels, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we were wondering back in January. Thank you. We always feel greatly appreciated by you all. I think while you're handing those out, I can read the next part. I'd like to seek to approve the agenda. Items may be added or deleted from the meeting agenda, and or the order of items may be changed at the request of an individual board member or the superintendent. The agendas must be approved before proceeding further, though. Do I have a... Yes, please. There was no response to public comment because there was no... Thank you. Yeah, I'm on it. Good job. So the agenda must be approved before proceeding further. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Motion, Gerby.
Second, Stebbin.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? We have an agenda. Second, please. Thank you. We have one student showcase presentation this evening. The SAS Robotics team presentation. It is not just the high school. It's not just the middle school and the high school. It's the elementary, the middle, and the high school students. So I will let you, is there a light show or smoke effects or anything? I know, I saw you preparing beforehand. Are smoke machines allowed? Well, I have spoken at the Robotics a few times, and I was a little disappointed each time that there were no flamethrowers, but maybe it's a good thing. But I'll let you give your presentation, sir, and introduce yourself.
All right. I got an extra one on me. This one is extra special. That one goes to Miss Gold. All 3 team numbers for FLR. All right, we can leave these here. Okay. All right, let's move these over here. Yeah, you can put it out if you want. Okay. So, okay, you got your clicker, right? I broke it last time. Okay. I'll stand up. Maybe we'll set it right here.
Those of you who've ever walked into a classroom sometimes wonder, where on earth is the teacher? Because everybody's up and around and busy, and this is the best example of that I've seen in a long time. Thank you. So,
Okay. So as stated, we are the robotics teams from Saline. We have elementary, middle, and high school here, and we'd like to give you an update on our season. So here we go. So first, because we know there's some new board members, we just wanted to give a quick recap of what FIRST is. FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology, and it is the overarching program that runs all of our sub-programs. So they are dedicated to giving students hands-on experience in STEM and robotics and creating the next generation of leaders.
So there are 3 different levels of FIRST. There is elementary, FIRST Lego League, where they build little Lego robots, as you can see over there. There is FTC, FIRST Tech Challenge, that's the middle school. They build robots like these. They play on a 12x12 field. And lastly, we have the high school. We are FIRST Robotics competition. And as you can probably tell, as the age ranges go up, the robots get more complicated and more intricate. So yeah.
And FIRST is about more than just robots, and this is, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but this is really summed up in the term that they've coined, gracious professionalism, as well as the term cooperation. And the meaning of those is just basically, even while you're competing, we want everyone to do their best. So competitions are unique in the way that teams go around, even if you are competing against a different team, to help them to make sure that everyone can have a robot on the field and everyone has a fair chance at getting the same distance. So with that, we will get into the different teams. We have 3 sections and then the end.
would you do us a quick favor and introduce yourselves?
Yes, okay.
Unless that was coming up, and I apologize if it was.
No, that wasn't. Start there.
Okay, I'm Emerson Myers. I've been in the robotics team for around 4 or 5 years, and I am in FTC.
I'm Arjun. It's not.
Well, they can't hear you on the internet if you, unless you're at the microphone.
We can say our names at the beginning of each slide that we talk about.
That would be perfect. That's exactly what I actually meant. I apologize.
All right. I will introduce the FIRST Lego League. So I have all my FIRST Lego Leaguers right here. All right, say hi, everybody. All right, what's the clicker? What's that? Oh. Okay, so FIRST Lego League is open to 4th and 5th graders. Okay, we have 3 teams this year, which is up 1 whole team, which of course is great that we have that much participation, but it's even better that we have that many coaches. ... Yeah, so I think maybe it would be a good time for you guys to come up and maybe introduce yourselves. Maybe say what team you're on. Okay.
Hi, my name is Kai Boudet, and I am Team Robo Hornets.
My name is Quinn Schrader, and I'm on Team Robo Hornets.
My name is Denaya Wan, and I'm on Team RoboSwarm.
My name's Max Tiani, and I'm on Team RoboSwarm.
My name is Victoria Perez, and I'm on Team RoboSwarm. My name's Caroline D'Agostino, and I'm on Team RoboSwarm.
My name is Shadi Aldeeb, and my team is Sting.
My name is Franklin Wong, and I am in RoboSting.
My name is Lily, and I'm on RoboSwarm.
My name is Aaron Atkinson. I'm a coach.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I'm Chris Myers, also a coach. So yes, this program, 4th and 5th graders, as you can see, this level is particularly amazing because of our costumery and our adornments generally. We have a lot of fun, okay? So the kids learn more than just robots, right, guys? We got two facets to our program, right? What's the first thing we build? Yeah, it's an innovation project. Caroline, you want to come up and just explain what this is this year?
Yeah.
Each team made a different project to solve this particular problem, but this is RoboSwarm.
So our innovation project. So at the beginning of the year, we learned that our innovation project had to follow the guidelines of solving a problem in energy. And so our team decided to build a kinetic footfall tile, where when somebody steps on it, we have piezo discs, and when somebody steps on it, the piezo discs flex, and then when they flex, they produce energy, and that energy goes into a battery and a fan, and the fan blows air through a box filled with sodalite pellets. So those sodalite pellets collect CO2, and then they push out the cleaner air.
Well said, thank you. And of course, the most visible part of First Lego League is the Legos and the robots. Kai, you wanted to tell us about your robot? And Quinn, you guys want to come up and bring your robot?
So our robot, it is called Carter, and so the first prototype, we had a little trouble making the lift system, so that took a little while to figure out, and then we finally did it, and then we ran into another problem, which was making the energy drop down onto the board, and that was a little troubling, so yeah.
Do you guys want to show them some of our game elements this year? What's this?
The windmill.
The windmill. What do you got to do to this windmill?
You gotta push it.
You push it.
And then
what happens when you push it?
The energy drops down.
You hope, right? Oh, there it goes, right? And then what do you got to do with the energy?
You gotta pick it up.
You got to get it. You got to pick it up, and then you got to get it to
the home space,
wherever it goes, right? And that's how we win, right? So you guys can hopefully get a sense, right? Okay, great. Thank you. So again, this is we are updating you on the results of the season. It was a fantastic season, and yes, there are a lot of trophies on this cart here, and some of them, yes, are amazing Lego trophies, but that's not what it's all about. So the kids compete at the regional, state, and this year even the international level. So you could see that we did really well at the regional level. The RoboSwarm took first place in the state for both their robot and overall, and that's what sent them on to an international competition. So we just got back from, what was it called, guys? Yeah, it was the Razorback Invitational. Does anybody want to tell us about one of those 80 teams from around the world? I think Lily does. Come on up, Lily. Well, just tell me, what did you think was fun? What was interesting about it?
I think what was really fun was just meeting everybody from the different teams and listening about their robot. And yeah, it's just really cool to know. So I got a high five from someone from Australia.
It was a very high five from what I remember.
It was called Supermate, like Superman, but Australian. So I think the best part is definitely just meeting everybody.
Thank you. So yes, it was a fantastic season. Does anybody have one last, anybody I missed that wanted to say something about how much fun they had or what they learned? Anybody? All right. No, it's okay. It's okay. All right. I'm going to hand it off to the middle school here.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I'm in 7th grade, and I'm part of the middle school team, or First Tech Challenge. Nationally, FTC is 8th through 12th grade, but since Michigan has so many teams competing, they made it 6th through 8th grade due to the large number. And Our team has 40 members, so we split it up into 3 teams, and there's 15 members per team. We build our robot right there with an aluminum kit of parts, a 12-volt system, and up to 8 motors or 12 servos, and we also have a running Android.
Hi, my name is Quinn Myers, and this season was called Power Play, and it was, in my opinion, such a fun season because there were 4 robots all competing to have their colored cone on top of like extremely high poles. So you had to have your robot pick it up and put it on this super high pole while also keeping your eyes on these 3 other robots trying to do the same as you. There could be these like intricate designs that you could do with the poles. Like if you had a diagonal line, you could get extra points. And it was just such a fun season. And yeah, I'm doing it again next year.
Swarm come in right behind him, picking it back off for the blue lines. Red lines going in, the black frogs are right there, taking it away from the blues. Bounty hunters coming in, taking away the 4-pointer, and they got it.
Hi, my name is Layla Aldeeb, and I'm going to talk about how we trained the robot to recognize different photos in the first part of our competition. So basically the first part of the round is called autonomous period, where you have the robot complete missions on its own. We used TensorFlow and different photos to train the robot to recognize our photos that we designed so that it can do different missions on its own.
All right. Hi, I'm Emerson, as you probably heard earlier. Some more things that we learned is a lot of perseverance and grit. The season is very long. There's a lot of practices, so you have to power through it, and you eventually get to the fun part where your robot is built and you can go compete at these amazing competitions. We also learned about friendship and teamwork, working together. One example of this is our coach told us that if we managed to get a perfect score where we placed all of our cones, he would buy the whole team ice cream. So we worked together, and we got it during our state's competition, and so we all got ice cream. The final thing is to be cool under pressure. You are under a surprising amount of pressure during these competitions. You have hundreds of people watching you, and if you do something wrong, then your team might be a little upset. So we train a lot, and we develop these skills, and we get very good at them.
So, my name is Arjun Saderkapam, and so we did really well at these competitions. We got a few awards. 2 out of 3 of our teams went to states in Grand Rapids. And both teams made it to playoffs at states. We became division finalists, which was pretty good for our team. We did really well at that part. And we were the autonomous, as Layla talked about earlier. Both of our teams were able to complete one of the more advanced kinds, such as able for the robot to automatically place multiple codes on poles without us giving any extra instruction other than the pre-coded examples.
Anybody else want to introduce themselves and say hi?
My name is Sidok Singh. I'm in 6th grade, and this is my first year of robotics. During the year, I was working on the coding, and especially on the TensorFlow part, which was the AI that we used for the autonomous period. And I liked learning about robotics a lot because I got to learn new skills such as coding, and I also learned how to be cool under pressure, as Emerson said, because when you're driving, especially at states, there were tons of people watching you, and you had to be cool under the pressure of having to drive the robot. and also a lot was on stake because either you could advance from winning a game or you could go down in the rankings from losing a game.
Hi, my name is Vadim Marshall. I am in 6th grade, and this is my first year of robotics. So, I was one of the builders building our robot, and my favorite thing about that was that I learned how to be able to build something with other people instead of hogging it all to myself. And during competition, I was a driver. I was the one that put cones on the poles, and that took a very steady hand, which I do not have.
My name is Owen Scatting. I'm in 8th grade, and I worked on the slideshow presentation and a lot of other random things about the bot.
My name's Levi. I'm in 6th grade. This was my first year in robotics, and I really like states, and I helped with lots of things like building parts of the robot, and I did lots of the slideshow stuff.
I'm Mayu already, and I've been doing robotics for 2 years. I'm in 7th grade, and I did a lot of building, especially with the team.
So lastly, we have Saline Singularity. We are the high school team. Tonight we have myself. I'm Will Alberti. I'm the main driver, and also Meghna Sonarikapam. She's the business lead. So in high school robotics, it's First Robotics Challenge. We are the most expensive and the most similar to BattleBots out of all 3 levels. So in the high school team, our title is Saline Singularity. We split ourselves into 6 different sub-teams. Electrical, they do the wiring. Mechanical, they do the building of the robot. Programming, obviously they do all the code. CAD and design, they do the initial designs, and they also work with the mechanical team on bringing our ideas to life. We have scouting, and lastly business. Business does all the money management, and also presentations such as these. We have 24 students and 5 mentors, and one of the things we really pride ourselves on is that we're very student-led. For example, it's Meghna and I here tonight. Meghna runs a vast majority of all of our events, and then she also leads all of our practices. So each week during our main season, we meet between 18 to 20 hours. So 4 days a week, and it's a lot, but it's a lot of fun as well. And we also have 6 weeks from when our challenge is actually released to our first competition. So we're working pretty hard then. So, yeah.
Okay, to give a quick recap of our season, we attended 2 events this year, one in Jackson and then the one we hosted in Saline, which we'll talk about in a second. In Jackson, we placed 7th out of 40 teams and were the 5th alliance captain, meaning we got to choose our team for finals. That was a first for us. We also got the Industrial Design Award in Jackson for our robot because we had custom design in the bottom. We spelled the robot's name along the base of it. And then in Saline, we were picked for the 4th alliance, and we made it to semifinals.
So like Meghna just mentioned, this was our 2nd year hosting our Saline event. We had over 40 teams come, which means 1,400 students and at least 4,500 people overall, including parents, volunteers, refs, all that sort of stuff. And according to Ms. Dawson, it's the largest event held through Saline area schools in total. So that's pretty impressive, especially considering it's mostly led by students and organized by Meghna and also one of our previous students. And we already have plans underway for next year. It's going to be around spring break, so put it on your calendars.
So we just want to highlight the impact that our programs have on students. Last year we had 12 graduates from the team, and all of them went into engineering. This year we have 5, again, all going into engineering fields. We also have mentors on the middle school team. Will and I mentor the middle school team, as well as one of our alumni comes back to mentor the middle school team. And we have middle school mentors for the younger teams, giving students the ability to have up to 7 years in the robotics in the program now. And when these guys get to high school, they will have up to 9 if they've gone all the way through. This is also me. And then, of course, we couldn't do this without our sponsors. All of these teams are sponsored by a number of programs, a number of organizations in the community. Highlighted on the screen are some of them, but not all of them. So we just wanted to say thank you to them, too.
And I'd like to say thank you to all of our FLL program sponsors as well. We're very fortunate.
So like I said at the beginning, FIRST is about more than just robots, and this is also showcased in our outreach. All of our teams here do outreach to tell the community more about STEM and robotics. Like this event, we love doing this. It's quite an honor, and it's a great way to let the school know more about what we do. In addition to that, you can see some pictures up there. This summer, the team went to Michigan International Speedway for their STEM Education Day. We had our robot there, and we got to see thousands of people and show them our robot. We also host workshops. We're hoping to host one this summer, and we have competed in lots of competitions and walked in parades. So we also like to highlight how robotics really does connect to every facet of the compass. We are critical thinkers, we're creative, and we're collaborative leaders in everything that we do in every single meeting. So we just like to highlight that the values Saline showcases are something that we use every day. And then finally, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for your time tonight listening to us, and thank you for all the support that you give us. We would love to see you at any of our events.
Well, thank you, Sadie. I'm sure there might be some really brief questions around the board table. I could start at one end and go to the other, or you can just pipe up. There she is.
Okay, first and foremost, I can't help but not notice all the pins. I hear them a lot. If you have an explanation for that, I'm very curious as to what it is. First and foremost.
So the reason we got all these pins is because we had different people on our teams assigned to a different category of like what makes up gracious professionalism. And we made badges for each different kind. And if you got like 4 marks, then you would get a badge for it.
Oh, that's super cool. Thank you. I guess I can direct this to any of the teams if one of you wants to answer, or all of you. Do you have a favorite project you've done ever, or just this year in particular?
My favorite project was probably the innovation project, because you do a lot of things. So we painted ours to be brighter, and also you get to build it, which is really fun, and you also get to draw and design it out.
I think one of my favorite projects was for the Saline Area Social Services. They're having like a food drive, and everyone just sort of gave like a little basket with different things in it. But as a robotics team, we decided to go a little overboard. So we had cereal boxes and different cans, and we made Wall-E from the Pixar movie out of lots of different foods, and that was really fun to go and donate.
Thanks, Allison.
Yes, I'll speak, I guess. So I think it's great that we're starting at such a young age and giving the kids the opportunity to go for 7 years now, potentially, and get into high school. I encourage everybody to go out to one of the robotics competitions, especially the one here in Saline. 2 years ago I went, and I was really unsure what I was going to experience, and I didn't want to leave, honestly, because it was a lot of fun.
Well, I will tell you that I'm super excited about like what the future brings for you guys, right? Like we're gonna do some really cool things because of our community with regards to STEAM programs and building additions, and guys, I'm super excited that we have such quality people that are gonna utilize it. And so thank you for that, okay? Like we build these things for you, right? And so that makes me very excited to see that it's going to be done with students who do high-level things and with great advisors and all that. And I guess the only question I would ask you, and I tend to ask this a lot, is how can we support you? What can we do to, you have an open pulpit here. What can we do?
Well, you've already done so much with passing the bond. That was a year ago today, actually. So thank you so much for passing that, and we're glad it passed in the community, and we're really looking forward to all of the space and materials that we'll be getting for that.
So
Hi, Aaron Atkinson. At first, Dr. Lodge, I want to say thank you for all your support, and to the board. You guys have been very generous with us over the years. We appreciate that. Also, we appreciate the grace from the cleaning staff and the teachers when we bombard their spaces. That's been appreciated. I would recommend you might look into some educational programs. There's a lot of districts around the country, around the world, who offer FIRST or other STEM programs as part of their curriculum. My understanding is that you need to start at the high school level, is what I've heard, and trickle down. I think taking that seriously and integrating that into your program would be interesting. So, thank you.
Awesome. So I just, I have a couple of things that I wanted to say, and then I do have one question. So the first is, I'm really proud of you, Mayor. Mayor was in my class, and I'm really proud that he has stuck with this. This was an interest that he had at a young age, and each year he comes back, it just gives me a lot of joy to see him enjoying that. And I also want to say, I know Coach Meyer and Coach Atkinson, I just want to voice my appreciation to the two of you. I've known the two of you for a little while, and I can testify that Mr. Atkinson was in our classroom when I was a teacher and did some projects through a grant from Toyota, and it was what do I want to say? It was a learning experience coupled with chaos, but really fun. So one thing that I remember are students building helicopters out of natural items found in nature and standing on countertops to see who could fly the highest, and being so encouraged by Mr. Atkinson to take those risks to get higher. So I know I can just imagine the fun that you have at your meetings and your competitions. And so that brings me a lot of joy to see that too. So the question that I have is, if someone can speak, and I know, Will, you've spoken to us before, Megan, I think you've spoken to us before, so if you want to take the reins on this, since you've lived this program so long, or if someone else wants to speak to it, but I want to know, how will these new STEAM centers impact your club?
So one of the things, firstly, I just really want to thank you guys for having us, especially be a part of the bond design, especially with Miss Kara Davis. Having Megan and I on the sort of committee design, that has been a massive, massive help. But what I've seen, especially with other schools, specifically with Chelsea, is they have a whole Chelsea Robotics Center. And I've talked to people that go to Chelsea and that are in robotics there, and they really connect between the different age levels, between middle school robotics and elementary robotics and high school robotics, a lot more than I think what we're doing now. And I really think that there's a lot more to come, and that we can build pretty much a whole community just around robotics, and we can become a lot more connected as one unit instead of sort of separating ourselves.
I was really expecting you to say, we'll be able to build bigger and better things, and I am really, really pleased with your response that it's really about community. And I've been saying over and over again, it really is about the people in our lives and how we can build community that really propels us forward. So thanks for sharing that, Will.
I just wanted to amplify that. Thank you, voters, for passing the bond. I think you're all excellent communicators, and I appreciate how you tied it back to the compass. So thank you. And I would just echo what I heard about the need for coaches. That's probably real with these numbers, and two of you standing here. I'm sure you have other help. So let us know if we can help push that out in the community, news and notes, or anything that Steve and Betty put out in the area. Get you some help. Thank you.
Yeah, real quick. I keep saying that, but it's not. But so thank you all for being here and doing all of the creative things that you do. I appreciate art and music and crafts, but I'm not very good at it. So I'm the appreciator. So it's super cool projects that you all do. So you all have come in the past and seem to be smaller groups. Are you seeing growth now in your teams?
Yes, the younger program has grown from 1 team to 3 teams in the 4 years, and the middle school program added a 3rd team this year because they're capped at 15, so they needed another team. So yes, we are seeing a solid amount of growth throughout all of the teams in the district.
that's exciting. I noticed already, so I'm sure it's going to grow even more.
Yeah, to build on that, for the Lego, we've added a third team this past season. I expect, Chris, we probably have a waiting list for 4, maybe 5. So if you're free on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're looking for coaches, so.
You've got patience, some sort of vehicle that can carry a lot of things, that's all.
You'll provide a whistle, of course.
Sure.
Dr. Gold.
Congratulations to everyone. You all look great. It's so nice to see this group of young scientists. I'm just wondering, how is it going to work with the young students coming up to be leaders in the next levels? Is it still going to be possible for, do you all think, for kids to start in middle school or even in high school with trying something new? And how does it work if somebody comes new to a team?
So we always, always, always welcome new members. We actually had a senior join this year who basically did all of the work for our Industrial Design Award, and he's pretty awesome. And he came and volunteered at our competition last year, and he was like, I just wanted to join this. I know I'm a rookie as a senior, but it's totally worth it. And he was a real leader on our mechanical team. So yes, people can still join. We don't know everything. We're so happy to new ideas. So yeah.
Well, thank you all. There's more. But
To add on to what Meghna said, on the middle school team, we had a huge number of first-year kids who had never been in robotics before, and they were all a huge help in helping our teams to grow, and I know that they learned a lot. We ended up with an amazing bot thanks to their help, and if you want to try it out, you should come check us out.
we appreciate the invitation, and you may see us soon, I'm sure. Well, I just want to say thank you once again to Mr. Myers and Ms. Rackinson and all of you. Let's see if I got this right. RoboSwarm, Cybugs, Hornet Hackers, and Saline Singularity. All right. Well, thank you very much. And I know there's going to be a bit of noise as we disassemble and get out of here. So we'll just pause. Did I miss RoboSting? Global Hornets. I knew there was some I had missed. Who did I miss? All right.
Saline Robotics for short.
So I was going to say which one to ask which is the best one, but obviously that would be troublesome. No, I absolutely appreciate all of your efforts and hard work and so forth. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the next time you make the news. Thank you.
Dad, where should I take this?
Just back in the back.
Not almost like those people are.
I don't know. Track.
Caroline?
So we have a few action items. The first, to the board, you will see a paper that says official ballot. It's a bit tricky. I actually talked to Stephen Olson yesterday. I thought it was going to be a slam dunk vote, but apparently not. First of all, before we get started, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing Michael McVeigh or Jenny Miller as alternate to cast a vote in the WISD biennial election on June 5th, 2023 for, at this point, we have one candidate, Stephen, well, we're going to leave the names blank at this point, on behalf of this board. We'll fill the names in after discussion. Do I have somebody to move? To make
So
that
moved.
motion? Who is that?
Gold.
Oh, Gold, thank you.
Support ESTEP.
Thank you.
Just point of clarification. So
Yes.
we make the motion, and then we will amend the motion once we've discussed. Correct?
Correct. We'll have a
Okay.
discussion about the names. Thank you. Pardon me. So, as best as I know, there are two positions open at the WISD board. That election will be held on June 5th. The deadline, filing deadline came and went. Stephen Olson was the only name on the ballot, which left one opening. At this point, it could be anyone from Washtenaw, with the exception of anybody from Ann Arbor. Not that we're being mean to Ann Arbor folks, but because we already have two Ann Arborites on the board. So one person, Serena Shevers, put her name forward officially as a write-in candidate. She lives in Lincoln. She comes highly recommended. Anyone who's read her background. She and I have worked together on the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development Board of Directors, and now we can put both of those names in this evening. However, after talking to Superintendent Naomi Norman yesterday, here's what could happen. We could have there will be a call from the floor for anybody who wishes to also put their name forward. And I'll make things even more difficult. It is technically possible for any board member also from another district to be on the WISD board and serve in their own board. I suspect it won't happen for us because their board meetings are exactly the same night as ours. So we're off that hook. So, and now here's the other thing. Already, back at the beginning, I thought it would be a slam dunk for me to go up there on June 5th. Sadly, I cannot make it that night. So if somebody wants to be the alternate to the alternate, they're welcome to put their names forward. But we're going to just stick with this right now as authorizing myself or Jenny to vote. So I'll leave the floor open for any other discussion or questions. I'm prepared to recommend that we put just these two names in because no other write-in names have come forward at this point. And anyone who is serious, my personal opinion, anyone who is serious enough about it would have done so by now. And as I said earlier, I can only say wonderful things about Serena Shevers. She actually started she worked at the WISD. No, Steve, you've worked with her many times. She started the ALICE training here in the district, and I'll just leave it at that. So I'll leave it open for discussion at this point.
So Michael, just a point of clarification.
Okay.
We would take your name off of this if you're not available, and we would just have Jenny's, correct?
No, we'll keep my name on because there's always that chance that I could still be doing it. But it looks quite likely that we will need our alternate. So forget what I said earlier about an alternate to the alternate. It doesn't matter who from our board, and in fact, it could even be Betty Yankee if she wants to do it. Any person from the district can come up and place the names. It's a very simple process. They have a physical box. You fill out this slip, drop it in the box, and somebody counts them. It's over. We say thank you, congratulations, and we all go back home.
Betty suggested and asked that we keep it as written, just for documentation.
And it works for me too. There is always a chance that I was told that it's a very short procedure, and I may actually be able to go, but I'll make sure we clarify that too.
So I guess what I would say is, a 12-year Chelsea board member seems like a pretty good choice to me. And then I think I read about Serena Shevers, that's how it's pronounced, correct, about the fact if it's the same one that's been like a teacher, an assistant principal, a superintendent, all for like Redford Union, like to me that's a pretty strong individual too, as far as knowledge of school districts and that kind of thing. So for me, I will say that I am comfortable with the two.
In addition, Stephen Olson has served as the president of the WISD board this year.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, if you are prepared, we can amend this motion to insert the names Stephen Olson and Serena Shevers in PH, and Serena SARENA SHIVERS. Just like it's on the, yeah. How do you say it? She just said, call me Serena when I met her a few months ago for the first time. So, all that said, we trust whoever's going to be up there that have motions come from the floor, but at this point, I think we should just lock in our vote right now. So, all in favor of this amendment? Oh, do we have to move?
We already had the motions by Gold and Eastup.
All right, but I think we need.
Approve the amendments.
So. Let's move again let's entertain a motion to approve this amended motion. Was that? Okay.
Just tell me what to say.
You
I
said it.
approve the amendment.
You approve the yeah, the amendment, sorry, thank you.
I
And
second that.
thank you, Susan Eastep. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? All right, all in favor. So, it's unanimous. We will, whoever is up there will be voting for those two people. Thank you. And right now, all across Washtenaw, they're having the same discussion, and they're scratching their heads pretty well the same way. I'd like to also entertain a motion to approve the recommendation to purchase and install 15 REI complete camera systems in the amount of $67,675.80 from Unity School Bus Parts Incorporated, as submitted by Director of Operations Rex Clary.
I'll make it. Kirby.
Kirby.
Second.
Aston, thank you. Do we have any discussion? There he is. Sir, is there anything you can add to this brilliant document that you let us look at earlier?
First, I'd like to bring up Tracy Mulcair, Director of Transportation Supervisor. We currently have 8 of these cameras in our school buses now, and they've proven to be a game changer for us as far as clarity, license plate, our red light runners, our prosecution, although they really don't share it with us if we actually get tickets, the result. But the results are crystal clear when we submit the video, and that can be used to keep our kids safe on and off the bus. Anything to add to that?
I don't think so. It's significantly better technology than we have in our buses that we're replacing these, hoping to replace. And like Rex said, we have the ability to pull in the video via Wi-Fi. We don't have to go out physically and get a SD card from the bus. And we've had dozens of red light runners. In fact, it really happens almost every day. So the ability to just pull that information quickly, save it for our local police agencies, and for them to issue the tickets is just a lot easier here.
And we'd like to thank Washtenaw County Sheriff, Michigan State Police, and the City of Saline for their support as well. They've been great at gathering data and prosecution. So.
Thank you. Any questions, Brett?
I have one quick comment just for the community's sake, and I also just for being innovative. I appreciate the fact that the funds for this are from a safety and security grant that we received from the state of Michigan. So I appreciate the fact that we're on top of that and we're applying for those kinds of things. And I think it's great that we're utilizing these monies to keep students and our community safe. So thank you.
Trustee Eastep.
I know it was a lot to go through, but I really appreciate that you put all of the information about requesting, putting a request out for this particular purchase. And so I thought that was interesting and very helpful to understand that process and having that all in front of us. Thanks.
Any other discussion?
Bidding process, that's what I was looking for.
So hearing no other discussion, let's put this to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Congratulations on your new cameras.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve, this is for you now. To accept the recommendation of interim special education director Kevin Musson to appoint Ann Babcock to fulfill the term originally held by Misty Gray as the Saline Area Schools representative for the WISD Parent Advisory Council.
Motion, Miller.
Miller.
Second, Stebbin.
Stebbin, thank you. Any discussion from you?
Just that I feel Ann will do a great job. In your board packet, you'll see that she's a parent of 3 students attending Saline Area Schools, and that she's a speech language pathologist and works for Milan Area Schools. So she's well equipped to do a very good job in this role.
I'd like to comment that I don't know Ann, but I was very impressed with her background and wearing both of those hats of being both a parent and a special education health professional. I thought that was kind of an amazing person to have at that seat.
I have worked with Anne, and she is as remarkable as you think. I think she'll be a great person for this role.
Well, thank you. Hearing no further discussion, I'd like to, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no opposition, we have ourselves a new person, a new representative. Finally, I'd like to recommend to approve the minutes from the May 9th closed session for the purpose of discussing a personnel matter under Section 8A. And how we do that is Secretary Miller will hand us a paper copy, which we will read and review and then vote on and then return to her. Let's, do we have somebody to make this motion?
So moved.
Two, second.
Got it. Thank you. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you. All in favor. We have one scheduled report this evening on restorative practices, discipline, Title IX, and our presenters are in the agenda, but I'll let them introduce themselves while they're making their presentation.
We'll all stand up when it's your guys' turn. Isn't that what we talked about doing?
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to present tonight on starting off our presentation. We have a team here to talk about 8 things to know about Saline schools. And you'll note that our cover slide talks about our commitment to student safety and well-being. This is primarily about restorative practices, discipline, and the law as we provide better supports for students. Now, I don't normally do this, but I am going to reflect and make a comment on the public comment we heard from one of our students tonight, in that my job as superintendent is to create the conditions for our students to be both feel safe and successful. And therefore, as described tonight by the student and some of her peers, I certainly have work to do. And so as we think about that tonight, as we work through this presentation, we will be reflective, because we are trying to create all of these conditions to make sure that all of our students are feeling safe and successful. And so that will be the premise of the presentation. If we go to the next slide, oh, you know what? Mr. Goodman has. We're going to start with looking at our, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but we look at a statement that we have in our DEI handbooks, and we talk about the importance of making sure that all of our students feel supported and see themselves in the curriculum. And that's a very important point. But students also need to feel safe to be able to access a curriculum and thrive. So if we reflect on, I know that's a little bit small, but the superintendent goals, the goals that I've set at the beginning of the school year, reflect the following: that we want to see the academic rigor centered around our Saline Area Schools compass. We're centering around a culture of equity. We talk about civility and unity to bring us all together. And finally, creating the conditions to improve Saline Area Schools for the future. And you think about the bond passing and some of the things that we want to be able to do. But again, we need to create the conditions for students to feel safe in order for them to be successful in accomplishing the superintendent's goals. And so with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Kara, our Director of Teaching and Learning, and she's going to talk next.
Good evening. As Steve said, I'm Kara Davis, Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. So as we strive to be really proactive around creating an educational environment in which we can actualize our Saline vision, Saline has invested in a number of measures proactively, K-12, in the hopes of helping students grow as developmentally appropriate dispositions such as self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and some examples of our investment include professional development, so supporting staff understanding of developmental needs, as well as instructional strategies and management, as well as the policy and law as relates to creating these safe and inclusive environments. Fostering positive relationships between peers themselves, as well as with adults in our communities. Incorporating whole building and our grade level opportunities in and out of the classroom for students to connect with other students in healthy ways and to exercise positive collaboration and communication skills, as well as integrating experiences that amplify our high expectations for positive behaviors and civility within an educational setting. So our hope is always to create an educational community, as Steve said, that has high expectations that are clear for all of our students, regardless of their grade level, and centering students as ethical and responsible citizens. And so our building principals and director representatives tonight are here to help us and dive into this a little bit more.
Hello, thank you for having us. I'm Yuzetta Deneen. I'm one of the assistant principals at Saline High School.
And I'm Lindsay Gettner, the assistant principal at Saline Middle School. What we'd like to share with you this evening is how positive behavior is fostered in our schools and how we respond to negative behaviors. When we look at behavior in general, we have to look at the environments in which our students access. These environments include classrooms, hallways, bathrooms, community spaces such as lunchrooms and media centers, school buses, and any other area that is used for community education events. In addition, we know that all of our students share a digital space as well, and that's incredibly impactful on their ability to navigate the world and sometimes significantly impacts their educational experience. Our teachers and our staff work incredibly hard to lay the foundation of expectations in their classrooms and throughout our buildings while building relationships with their students. Relationships are fostered through community building activities, icebreakers, teaching their students to be contributing citizens, and other activities. Our staff develop educational experiences that help students to advocate for themselves, research other perspectives, have empathy, and understand the meaning of giving back to both their school and outside communities. As an administration team, we also work to educate our staff, our students, families, and community members about what our expectations are regarding behavior and our response through discipline, education, and restorative practices. We continuously ask for partnership as we know that it takes an entire village to help raise our young people into healthy, participating citizens once they leave their K-12 education. Our goal is to promote positive behavior and students exhibiting positive behavior at a building-wide level, and also respond to negative behaviors through discipline, education, and restorative practices.
Does this work? Yeah. Do you want to do it for me?
Yeah, there you go.
Some of the prohibited behaviors that we've been providing an elevated level of education on this year, in addition to the other two prongs of our three-pronged approach, including discipline and restorative practices, are hate speech acts, academic integrity, and substance abuse, and bullying both in the personal and digital space. When working with students regarding discipline, in addition to education and restorative practices, we also provide behavior consequences. When deciding on what consequences a student is given, we utilize our student handbooks as our foundation, and we also consider the following: so the development of the student, both age and cognitive ability, prior discipline, the impact of their behavior, and access to their education. We also understand that every behavior communicates something, and at times this is when administration discretion is used, and it's also stated in each of our handbooks. So disciplinary actions that are used throughout our buildings, but not limited to out-of-school suspensions, in-school suspensions, lunch detentions, after-school detentions, and warnings. Restorative practices are used throughout our buildings to help repair harm and allow those involved to move forward in a positive way. We don't push friendships, but more so a positive coexistence to maintain a safe learning environment. So questions that are asked through restorative sessions and even when investigating behavior incidents are: what happened? What were you thinking at the time? What have you thought about since? Who has been affected by what you've done and in what way? And what do you think you need to do to make things right? So restorative sessions are never forced on both parties. They do have to agree in order to meet. Guidelines and norms are set by the adult that's facilitating the restorative session. If one of the parties does not feel comfortable participating in the session does not occur. We want to continue to increase our education around our expectations to all of our stakeholders and the policies and guidelines that we follow, and most of which is outlined in our handbooks. And so we do encourage all of our stakeholders to review the student handbooks throughout our district with their students. Cool.
Hello, everyone. I am Ashley Mantha, Athletic Director at the high school as well as the middle school. And so I am going to be talking about the positive supports we have in the athletic level. First off, athletics, it is a privilege. It is not a right. And so within our own handbook of the athletic, we have our other additional standards that you might see already outlined in the student handbook, both at the middle school as well as the high school, but additional ones that Lindsay and Musetta just outlined as well. An example would be grade eligibility. Not just any student can be an athlete. We do have other additional standards that we place upon our Saline student athletes. So any violation to the Saline Athletic Department rules, the high school, middle school student handbooks, or MHSA rules, that result in some form of discipline, education, or restorative practices. School actions and behavior directly affect extracurricular activities, not just athletics, clubs, and so forth, because they are an extension of the classroom. We are educational athletics, and that's why there's that education piece as well as that discipline, right? And vice versa. Sometimes you see things happening on the field, the court, the pool, that can also school discipline can be brought in, or police action, depending on severity of that leveling up of behaviors. Anytime our department is presented with a situation, we kind of ask ourselves, what is being violated? What tier, so to speak? We do start with that basic level of our team conduct, code of conduct. So team rules, our coaches are enforcing those. It might be something, as simple as they skipped practice, unsportsmanlike conduct, right? Team suspension, right? Then we obviously enforce that with our athletic department, which goes to the next one, our athletic handbook, right? Our parents and our students do sign off on this when they register. They might not read it thoroughly until they need it, but they do sign off on that they have received it and have read it, quote unquote. But like I said, department rules might be, skipping class. Well, you can't be participating in activities that day then, right? We're checking grade checks. Is there hazing? Season suspensions, right? That kind of comes from our department. We still answer to MHSA as well, right? So there are certain things that we need to be aware of for the Michigan State. So if we have players getting ejected from the games or banned or unsportsmanlike, right? There are certain things where you're not allowed to play. There's sportsmanship courses required to come back. There's transfer rules, there's all those kind of things that we have to answer that's above Saline as well. It's the whole state of Michigan for all schools that are part of MHSA. And then, of course, school handbooks that Musetta and Lindsay just touched upon, and our Board of Education policies that we kind of bring into our athletic as well. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. If we have an in-school suspension or an out-of-school suspension or an extracurricular suspension, it makes my job very easy, so to speak, when I talk to the principals, and it just naturally kind of coincides with, well, you're no longer part of this team or practicing that day or participating that day and so forth. Once again, depending on that activity or severity. And then obviously the law comes into play, right? So if we're dealing with something bigger, whether it happens because it's a student athlete or because it happened actually at the event, a school sanctioned event, that comes kind of in play. We might have to deal with some more outside help as well. So that's why we have the who's involved. It definitely depends on the severity, whether it's, coach handling some inter-team turmoil or more of a school discipline or more of a police action kind of thing. So we kind of bring in people as we need it, depending on the severity. And that, like I said, depends on the situation. And that is a little bit looking into how we like to support positive behavior from the athletic perspective. So I thank you for this.
Good evening. I am Dr. Shannon Washington, Director of Culturally Responsive Instruction, Equity, and Inclusion. And while I'm not a building principal or the athletic director, and I'm not responsible for disciplining students directly, I have worked closely with Saline area schools since 2019 on looking at how Saline area schools discipline students through the lens of equity with a focus on restoring children back to learning. As a classroom teacher for 20 years, I know that kids cannot learn if they do not feel safe. And we as educators, like Dr. Lotch said, are responsible for providing that safety. And so my part of this presentation is to look at how Saline schools protect students' rights, and I'll be focusing mostly on the policy and law. And I'll be using bullying as kind of my example to dig into how our policies are rooted in law. So our learner framework helps us to frame the relationship between educating the whole child, their identities, and our educational values. I'm going to just read a little part of it because it says that we're committed to supporting the academic, social, and emotional development of all students, valuing race, ethnicity, ability, gender, class, sexual orientation, religion, and other social identities, to ensure they acquire the essential skills to be continuous learners and productive citizens in an increasingly global society. So when we look then closely at our school board policy, one of the first statements on that policy is that it is the policy of the district to provide a safe and nurturing educational environment for all of its students. We care about all of our students, and we care about the whole student. However, when educators use the term care, we need to be clear that to care is an ethical practice that includes providing students with discipline. And it aids that discipline aids in their educational development. As this is a public institution, we are subject to state, federal, and case law. And if we look really carefully at Michigan law, the law requires that we have an anti-bullying policy. So the state requires that our anti-bullying policy has some key elements, such as appropriate investigations. Those are carried out by our principals and assistant principals, that we maintain confidentiality. And there's even a provision for the school system to provide education about bullying to both students and parents and caregivers. Our policy here in Saline begins by stating that we will provide a safe and nurturing educational environment for all its students. Rooted in state law, Saline Area Schools defines bullying or other aggressive behavior as that which can be written, physical, verbal, psychological, including hazing, gestures, comments, threats, or actions which can cause or threaten bodily harm, and reasonable fear of personal safety. Bullying may be stalking, intimidation, menacing, coercion, name-calling, taunting, making threats, and hitting or pushing. And kind of like Director Mantha said, this can be on the school property, during school or school-related activities, or if it disrupts the school environment. So this is a very rich, thick explanation for what bullying could look like. Per state law, student confidentiality must be maintained throughout the process. However, anonymous reports are not enough to apply consequences and have to be corroborated within the investigation. If it's found that a student has been bullied, state law and our school board policy require consequences, which our student code of conduct clearly articulates. However, administrators are allowed to use discretion, which they spoke about just a few minutes ago. State law and our school board policy provides for the education and restoration of students as part of the disciplinary process through restorative practices. However, those are voluntary. If bullying involves a social identity, so the social identities listed in our learner framework actually mirror state law, federal law, and case law. And so if bullying involves a social identity, it may be deemed as discriminatory. Federal law and the receipt of federal funds requires the district under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 forbid discrimination based on identities. And we have several layers of identities introduced over time. So these include race, sex, gender, nation of origin, first language, religion. The Michigan Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act adds to that age, color, height, weight, or familial status. These identity-specific laws and policies are designed to provide an equitable and inclusive learning environment. If it's found that a student has been bullied or harassed based on their identity, our school leaders will apply the disciplinary process as outlined in the Code of Conduct, which includes education. In order to provide students with a safe and nurturing education environment, the district takes great care to teach students what it means to bully, harass, or use hate speech. A student may be found in violation of Title VI or Title IX, in which case there could be a formal civil rights complaint. We also rely on the partnership of parents and caregivers. It's all of our job together, and truly our primary responsibility is to educate children in an environment as free of bullying as systemically possible so that they are free to learn.
Good evening. My name's Carol Melcher. I'm the principal at the Saline Alternative High School and also the district's Title IX coordinator. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about how Title IX protects students within the Saline area schools. I'm also going to talk a little bit later about how we record and archive the student's disciplinary record. Saline area schools believes very strongly in providing equitable access to all programs, regardless of sex. Title IX is governed by the Office of Civil Rights. You may or may not be familiar with Title IX and the scope of Title IX, but this is actually Public Law 92-318 of the Educational Amendments Act of 1972. It was a broadly written prohibition on gender discrimination in educational institutions. At that time, we assumed that meant athletics. So there were not many programs for females to participate in sports back in 1972. 51 years ago, the law was passed on June 23rd, so it's coming up on year 51. Title IX allows for equal access in sports participation. However, it also pertains to safeguarding the rights of students in a wide range of educational settings. And here's a brief summary of how Title IX protects students. Number one, of course, we all know the best way that Title IX protects students is through its requirement that schools provide equal opportunity to participate in athletics, in particular to historically underrepresented athletes. Number two, Title IX protects students by requiring that schools also provide to the underrepresented athletes, females, equivalents in athletic benefits and opportunities that accompany sports participation, such as equipment, uniforms, facilities, locker rooms, tutoring services, quality of coaches, and scheduling, just to name a few. Title IX also protects students by prohibiting sexual harassment and sexual violence in educational settings. Title IX also requires schools to develop policies to safeguard students from such behavior and to effectively address misconduct. This section of Title IX is addressed in our school board policy number 2266. Title IX also protects students from hazing, bullying, cyberbullying in educational settings, such as initiation rituals that sometimes are imposed on students in sports, in clubs, and extracurriculars. Words or actions of a sexual nature that result in the hazing causing a hostile environment are prohibited. These actions, disciplinary consequences that may include restorative practices, are explained in board policy number 5517. Title IX also protects students against any type of gender discrimination in other school programs such as STEM or STEAM programs, fine arts, theater, and so forth. Title IX protects the rights of pregnant and parenting teens of any gender by prohibiting schools from applying or invoking any rule concerning parental, family, or marital status that treats persons differently on the basis of sex. Title IX prohibits or protects all students who experience sexual harassment or gender-oriented bullying. This includes instances of sexual harassment or bullying where the perpetrator and the victim are of the same gender. LGBTQ plus students have the same rights as any other student under the Title IX regulations. In fact, in May of 2016, the U.S. Department of Education and the U.S. Department of Justice jointly issued guidance clarifying that the definition of gender was gender identity and not gender assigned at birth. And although this guidance was rescinded in 2017, the Department of Education explicitly states that Title IX protects all students with regard to equal access issues in educational programs. Title IX also protects students by providing a cause of action for financial damages to anyone who is retaliated against for reporting a violation of the statute. And finally, Title IX coordinators. Title IX also protects students through the mandate that all schools in the country must have in place a Title IX coordinator whose role is to develop policies to protect young people from all forms of gender discrimination, to implement in-service programs to educate all the adults in the district and also the students, and to develop the process for receiving any complaints and to conduct substantive and timely investigations for any complaints. And finally, to implement legally valid dispute resolution processes. Title IX protects all students from discrimination on the basis of sex. Saline Schools looks at Title IX as a primary responsibility in affording equal access to programs. Why is this not moving? Did it go? The former slide referred to Title VI, which was referenced earlier. I just want to explain that Title VI is part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and it says, in brief, no student in the United States shall, on the basis of color, race, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. This law is also governed by the Office of Civil Rights and enforces Title VI as it applies to programs and activities funded by the Federal Department of Education. Title VI prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin in any program or any activity for any institution that receives federal funds. And then we talk about the process for filing a complaint under Title IX or Title VI or any of the other board policies regarding discrimination. Any person who feels that they may have been discriminated against, harassed, or bullied based on sex may file a Title IX complaint with the district. Specific procedures are listed on the Saline Area Schools website under Family Resources. Typically, a complainant will start by bringing the concern to a building administrator. A formal complaint then comes to me. We review that complaint thoroughly. If you have questions, anyone here about the process or procedures regarding supportive measures, about investigations, decision-making, non-retaliation policy, please contact your building administrator or feel free to contact me. And then finally, slide 10 talks about how we partner with our families to make sure that everyone is aware of policies and procedures and how we can better understand who the students are in our district. We truly believe that we are better together. Shared student-centered knowledge helps build bridges between home and school, and the focus of our work is to educate better and more in a proactive manner. We do advocate for a shared responsibility and a shared partnership with all families. The more we know and the stronger our relationship, the more successful each child will be. It takes all of us to grow responsible humans into adults. Sometimes, in spite of our best efforts, kids make mistakes. Kids are kids. Kids sometimes make mistakes that need correction and sometimes need corrective action under our discipline policies. Now is the best time for kids to make mistakes. Now is the time to learn from those mistakes. And that's why we have restorative practices first as the go-to for how we can help students understand what they did, how to correct their behavior, and how to move forward in a positive manner. With all actions that may require correction or disciplinary consequences, there's a process for recording that data. The bulk of student misconduct is resolved through restorative practices, conflict resolution, counseling, and guidance. We seek to determine the root cause for that misconduct. Kids misbehave for a reason. There's always some underlying cause, and so we seek to find that out, determine the why. Working with partners, with families, maybe they can help us understand the why of the misbehavior. And then put a plan in place to correct the behaviors and also hold them accountable under the Student Code of Conduct. The Saline Area Schools Student Code of Conduct includes a suggested list of disciplinary consequences, which is suggested, but as you heard earlier, not necessarily cast in stone. So what happens when a student does something where corrective action or consequences are indicated? Number one, meet with the building administrator, counselor, social worker, case manager, dean, or community liaison. And depending on the infraction, parent notification is involved in the discussion. We review the evidence. We first and foremost ask for cooperation with restorative practices so that we can resolve the conflicts and then move on. And as mentioned in Musetta and Lindsay's section, principals are required to consider 7 factors before assigning any school suspension. We must consider the student's age, the disciplinary history on the student, whether or not the student has a disability, seriousness of the behavior, safety risk, use of restorative practices, and the level of intervention. When students elect to enroll in a Saline Alternative, I do an intake interview with every family, and I tell them it's rare, very rare, that I suspend a student from school. We want students in school, and suspension is the last thing we want to do with any student. So, you know, what happens? You did something. We've got to find a restorative measure. We have to have some sort of a consequence. But what happens with that information? We had a conversation, but unless it's archived and recorded somewhere, it's lost. So school-based discipline is most often documented in the PowerSchool SMS, the student management system. PowerSchool is used for most school discipline, threat assessments, grade level changes, teacher administrative communication, and health plans. These are called log entries in PowerSchool. The log entries are part of the student's educational record, and this information is shared between teachers and administrators as the students move from building to building. On occasion, that log entry record is shared with another school if they request it when a student moves to another district. But it's rare that those disciplinary logs are requested. In short, the principal or the principal's designee will document the date, time, and place of the incident and the consequences that were issued. This PowerSchool record helps administrators to determine the appropriateness of future disciplinary consequences. The disciplinary record does not appear on a report card. It'll never show up on a transcript. It is, or it should be, a record of infractions and efforts to educate the student on how to correct their behaviors. Confidentiality is maintained throughout the process. If several students are involved in an altercation, for example, the record remains confidential, reflects only student X and student Y that were involved with a fist fight with John, whose record we are recording. And finally, the CA-60. The CA-60 is the student's permanent record. This is a paper file that is initiated when any student enters a public school in the state of Michigan. That school record is updated at least annually and follows the student from building to building. Contains the resident district archive for 99 years. Documents included in the CA-60 are attendance records, report cards, enrollment records, health records, test scores, and if indicated, a 504 plan, threat assessments, name changes, custody decisions, and other legal matters. CA-60s are housed at the building level until the student graduates. Archives are now at Saline High School for any student who's graduated from Saline, and they are now being stored electronically. And then the final archives are Title IX investigations, and all of those investigations, letters of notice, decisions, and sanctions are housed separately from the student's permanent record. They will never appear in a student's personal record. It's a file that's stored in a separate location for 7 years. So that's a lot of information, a ton of things that maybe you wanted to know and maybe you didn't. But that's the way that we operate our student disciplinary procedures, and hopefully it's been informative for you. I'll take a step aside and ask Kara to summarize our presentation for you. Thank you.
All right, so as you've heard thus far, Saline Schools is committed to our practices and procedures that foster safe and nurturing spaces for students in a diverse community while supporting positive behaviors and also helping students become responsible and ethical citizens. We embrace the complexities of this role in supporting student growth from an early age and to adulthood. And we are committed, of course, to continuous and ongoing evaluation and reflection of our practices and procedures, from collecting data via surveys and feedback from individual experiences, to integrating social, emotional health and wellness as a part of our district improvement plan, to building positive partnerships with our families, parents, and students. We're always striving to improve, and we're open for questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very thorough. Very thorough. Are there any questions, clarifying questions, or otherwise? At the we'll just guess we're going to work down the table. Eileen to the right.
I'd like to thank all the presenters for this information, which was very helpful to me, and I'd like you to thank you for using what seems to me, in my limited knowledge as an educator, but somebody who likes to look at the scientific literature. So I went and looked a little bit at restorative practices, and the community might like to know that, because I didn't really know much about it, to be honest with you. And I would like to hear a little bit more about which ones we're using, because I read about like peer mediation, circles, counseling, direct to direct. So that would be interesting, I think. But when I looked at the studies, you know, this leads, rather than severe punishment, it's less absenteeism, less inequity for students who can be marginalized, fewer school crime, fewer cases of violent behavior. Interestingly enough to me, and this is from an NIH study, fewer instances of using drugs and alcohol. So, you know, just like across the board, many positives to using this sort of framework. So I'd like to congratulate our excellent educators on using best practices. And it was really very profoundly impactful to me looking at some of the evidence and hearing more in more detail what we're doing. And I hope it will be to members of the community, because as I shared, I think one of the first questions I hear from families that I talk to is like, well, what happens? We hear about things happening. And so I'm really glad that you're communicating this to us, and we can, you know, hopefully people are watching and we can communicate it back to the community. I'd also expect and hope and appreciate any feedback that we get back for the students from the students themselves affected, both as students who have received education for making mistakes, which we all do, and students who have been on the hurt end of these kinds of incidents. It'd be really interested to hear both in like data form or narrative form, how the process feels. The one thing I didn't see in the studies that I looked at, and I'm sure there's more because I don't know the educational literature, I just look for NIH, but it'd be really interesting for me to know as a pediatrician, like, how does it feel going through that process to the students involved on both ends? Do we have students who are repeat offenders? How does it feel to be to get that education that I've gotten about saying something that was unintentionally harmful, but intent, as we learned, is less important than impact. So like, how does that feedback feel? Do those students learn and grow from the experience? And also, I think it'd be nice to know like what their time at home is spent doing, because I think, giving students education is one thing, but like, is there an assignment? Do you go write something about what you learned, etc. So I'd love to keep learning about this and how we're doing it in the community. I'm thrilled that we've heard about it. I'm not saying I want to hear, this was a very complete presentation. I'm very grateful, but I will look forward to hearing how continuing these processes help our community grow. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gold.
I have a lot of questions. So I guess speaking about the hate speech acts, hate speech and acts handbook statement. I know we have that education component. And so a question that's come up, because I was there when that was created, and I know the DEI AC committees, advisory committee has been, looking at that, providing suggestions and everything. So my question is, because these are like harassment, bullying based on protected classes, and those cases should be elevated by whoever's investigating if they feel that it is harassment based on protected class, and it should be referred to compliance officers. Is that typically happening here, or what's that process in more detail, I guess?
Sure. So I actually did kind of the first study of the Hate Speech Guidance Act in the fall, where I spent some time with each principal individually collecting data about how they used it, how they used the guidance, and whatever data I could gather about the frequency of use and the effectiveness of it. And so, and that report was provided back to the administrative staff to then go ahead and start to study what needs to be done here. And so what I learned is that rarely are things escalated to a Title VI complaint because either, particularly at the K through 5 level, really, I think maybe through the K through 8 level, kids choose to go through the restorative process and go through the education, and they kind of meet the expectation, both students meet the expectation that there was a lesson learned and the harm has been repaired. And so rarely, to my knowledge, there's not been an increase in the escalation to Title VI complaints. I can't necessarily say never, but in my interviews with principals, that is usually the case. In fact, when we looked at all of the elementary schools and the alternative high school, students participated almost at a 100% rate to participate in restorative practices. Though, to Dr. Gold's point, it is voluntary. And so when students choose not to participate, we honor that because there are a variety of reasons that they're choosing not to participate. So Title VI has really been a very distant option because there has been a focus on education and restoration. I think that answers your question.
Sort of. I mean,
Sort
that's
of, yes.
a perfect scenario that
Yeah.
that it was even investigated, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in situation that, the restorative piece isn't working, I guess sometimes even not under hate speech, I guess at any time, right, under a bullying policy, that's it. It doesn't have to be a very specific, like, oh, this person has to report this person, whatever. That's the admin. If they are recognizing that needs to be put
Escalated.
along. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That would be within the administrator's purview to escalate a complaint of discrimination based on those identities to a Title VI complaint. And then that's what Carol was talking about. Like, then you start a formal process there. That I have not really investigated as much. When I asked for information about that, most of the reporting I got from every principal was we continue to use the 3-pronged approach as it relates to the guidance. There is not necessarily the same restorative practice processes in every building because every building may have different personnel or different processes, but that is the information that has been shared with me. So obviously, legally, parents, students, and administrators can work together to determine whether or not there is a Title VI claim there.
Or further, like Title IX
Yes.
within that, and also I believe Section 504, all of that. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So questions, I guess, about, and I don't know if this would involve you.
Okay.
Well, maybe. So is there education on the expectations and procedures that are provided, I guess, at a district level, also at a building level, and a classroom level? So we have these different approaches, and if, in the past we've had where like teachers may not have acted, appropriately, and just, passed them along real quickly. So I'm wondering what kind of education's going on and support around that. And, does each, I guess, building, this would be a further thing, right, have like, somebody reports it to an office staff member. Do they know what they need to do? Somebody like working in food services, that they know who to report to. Even with our compliance officers, we've stopped putting names in our policy, but if there's not a name there, so I'm just curious if there's any sort of structure in that to make sure that we're responding the best way possible.
Sure. You can start, and then I'll fill in. Yeah.
So from a district lens, in terms of the professional development, one of the moves that we made this past year as a part of our inclusion is professional development was start to begin to operationalize the policy that we have in place, starting with the transgender and non-binary policy, as well as with some of our handbook policy, our handbook guidelines, in order to help really elevate that to a conversation that we're having in the forefront, so that our staff have the opportunity to ask questions and get the support that they need in understanding what the language is within that. That is an ongoing process, and I see us continuing that as a part of our professional development work this coming year. In addition, at a district level, in terms of our administrative team, some of our goal areas have included calibrating our approaches, our language, and our understanding of policy at the building levels, and looking at that horizontally and vertically in order to make sure that we're aligned where we need to be. That has included developing some toolkits for both our administration at the building level and at the district level. Some work that Dr. Washington has done related to pulling policy language into one place, to creating flow charts for navigating disciplinary steps, as well as creating some tip sheets for how to handle certain situations and that require some delicacy. So there are some pieces in place, and I do feel that this is an area that we can continue to grow. So, for example, where I talked about doing the ongoing evaluation and reflection, we get feedback through our school quality survey, through our perceptions of equity survey. Both have questions related to discipline and equity in our buildings that we can analyze and then reflect upon, and also examine for disproportionality. We're doing some self-studies internally. Kevin Musson, Director of Special Education, has recently looked at some data to help us better understand where we might have some spaces that we can grow. And then we will continue to look at the feedback that we get just from everyday incidents. We learn every day. I mean, it's a very complex society, complex behaviors. Teaching in K-12 spaces is, I would like to say it's the same day to day, but it's not. And certainly students have varying responses inside of a school setting with different peers as they change and they grow across the years. And so we do really value the feedback that each of those experiences brings to us, and then we often come back to evaluate and reflect on that in our admin meetings.
Okay, so so there are or will be, because I mean, since I moved to the school district, bullying has been going on, especially publicly, based on protected classes, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, and so I guess I would expect, I know you are building and working on everything, but I would expect that there's some sort of process before that point, but I don't.
Yeah. And I'll speak to, so the hate speech guidance is just administrative guidance. To my knowledge, the policy, as it's written in the policy manual, we are taking a piece of the anti-bullying policy and kind of developing that out into what hate speech is. And so now we have just completed our full second year with this guidance, and now we are actively studying it to see where we need to grow. And so this will be our second summer, really looking at some areas that we can improve. And there is some really preliminary data that we can study based on what's happening here. And we have quite a good collection of qualitative data from students and from parents that we can reflect on. What's difficult is it takes time to do that, and it takes space to do that for administrators to do it, and it is imperative that administrators do it because they're the ones who have to actually act in the policy. So I can write up all the things, but they have to actually bring it to life. And so that's where we are. And I do often reflect on the fact that just 3 years ago, this guidance did not exist. And there really wasn't a real recognition in Saline that there's a difference between bullying and being bullied for your social identity in terms of the impact it has on students and the learning environment. And now that we are recognizing it, now we need to study how we can continue to build, strengthen, empower our leaders to be able to use it effectively, and so that it actually causes the incidence of hate speech to decrease over time. That's what we're looking for. And so in order to do that, we do have to put some systems in place to measure both qualitatively and quantitatively. And we are right there starting to do that.
And I know.
Yeah.
I know, and like support, like that's great.
Sure. Yeah,
I think I was more so talking also about the bullying and harassment in general too. But yeah, you've like done great work and research and have done a really good job on that. But yeah, in general, just kind of the responding to any sort of bullying, I guess.
Yeah.
Have a couple more things here. That was important. I believe this came up about staff member, some staff members doing bullying. I've heard that as well. So when a staff member is found to be doing the bullying, will these be the same procedures in place with the bullying and harassment?
So there is a separate policy that relates to staff. The particular incidents that you heard about tonight, I just learned about them myself, and so I do have questions about how that policy is actualized.
Yeah, let me know.
But there's board policy about adult bullying, and so we have to take a look at that. And I will be honest, because that's all I know how to be. Like, when or if we have incidents where adults are bullying children because of identity, that is cause for a Title VI, because there is power in that adult that a child does not have, and that could be problematic. So we have to look at it. There's more to learn there.
Yeah, that there wouldn't be a restorative practice thing right away.
I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, okay.
I don't
Let
have
me
an
know.
answer for that.
And my last question, because I asked in December about this sort of presentation, but what I had said was at the state level, I believe we reported, I didn't say the number, but it was like for 1 year, we reported 1 case of bullying, and this is any type of bullying, and then like 0 the year prior. I don't know if what I found was correct. So just coming from the policy 5517.01, bullying and other aggressive behavior towards students, the district shall report incidents of bullying to the Department of Education on an annual basis. Also, the superintendent shall submit a compiled report to the board on an annual basis. I've been on the board for 4 years and I haven't seen such a document. Do you know, like, is that in process, or? I brought it up a couple of times. No, you won't know that.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't have an answer for that, but.
No, I'm as superintendent.
I can speak that we submit each year a SID report, which is where we report instances of those type of offenses. If there is an expectation that it comes to the board in that way, I will make sure to correct that and find out specifically what we're supposed to submit directly to the board.
And then I would just like to share, and I think I shared this in my last board report when Beth Russo was here as our secondary MTSS coordinator. One of the things that we've been working on is our systems. So internally, our logistics, Carol Melcher mentioned the Power School and our logging in Power School. And so as we align those systems and strengthen how our data is collected at a district level, it makes it much easier to report, track, and be responsive to.
Do we have a number of bullying incidents, right off the top of anyone's head?
No, we do not have a number that
No.
we can report tonight.
Okay, well, if you could send that information, that'd be great.
There's been a request to have a bio break soon. So what we're going to try to do is to expedite our questions or ask just brief clarifying questions if possible, and then move for a brief recess. All right? Vice President Stebbins.
Yes. So first of all, welcome back, Musetta. It's really good to see you, and congratulations again. Excuse me. So this is my 5th year on the board, and I wanted to amplify something that Lauren said, because I would also like to see this a little bit more often. I don't remember seeing this. This was very comprehensive, does not need to be this deep, but just an annual, what have you. I think it would be a good thing to see. Again, very, very comprehensive. It is clear that this is being taken seriously, and this is the law, so that we should do that. I think Carol clearly demonstrates a very deep experience and understanding, and appreciated all of the details that you provided. I also really liked that we talked about inside and outside of the classroom, so thank you, Ashley, for adding on to that. And Lindsay, you specifically mentioned sharing a digital space. Fellow middle school, I hear you big time. So thank you for being very cognizant of that always and mentioning that tonight. I guess what I would ask is, this deep dive was great for us and very important, just to socialize this in the schools with the students as well, and to kind of think about that perspective, because it's important that parents and guardians hear this. It's important that we hear that. It's important that they live this and understand this process. That's my only request, and if you wanted to comment on that, that's
Yes,
fine.
I do actually, because I was feeling like I didn't amplify that enough as a part of our reflection and ongoing evaluation. One of the pieces that we are looking to strengthen is the parent education piece. Dr. Washington has done a fabulous job related to her family education pieces around our DEI work this year and the last year before this one. And so we're looking at that as a model, as to bring to our families and our students to continue to read some of this deep knowledge that we're bringing to our staff and our administrators, also to our students and to our families, so that they understand and have the same language that we have in understanding of the laws and policies that guide public schools. And so we'll be starting that in August with our welcome back materials. In fact, we actually took a presentation that we had started with that in mind and adapted it for this presentation tonight, but you'll see pieces of this come back for our family and student education pieces as well.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have 3 questions that I can email to.
Okay.
Secretary Miller.
I just wanted to say welcome to the Washingtons. Thanks for being here tonight, supporting Dr. Washington. I also wanted to echo what Vice President Stebbins said. My 2 high school students are really excited that Miss Deneen is back. So congratulations and welcome back. The other thing that I'm interested in, and maybe this will be a lengthier conversation that we can have at another time, but I wondered about when you were sharing the questions that are used in the restoration process. I think Miss Deneen was sharing those. I just was wondering how that looks at a developmental level that might not be the high school. So if you want to talk with me later about that, that's fine. Or if you want to address it a little bit tonight, that's fine too.
Yeah, I can give you a very general answer. When I did explore each building to look at how different buildings did the restorative piece, and just in general, what I found is that it is actually more routinized in the elementary school, because they are already conditioned to do circle time and already conditioned to have face-to-face conversations, and it's a part of their regular practice. So it is a very seamless process in the K-5 buildings, and then it looks different at the other levels. But that's, in general, exactly what happens. Is there is this face-to-face conversation that is that has some intermediation there, some mediation there.
Thank you. And just another note, if I wasn't looking at you making eye contact, Betty is gone, so I am taking notes.
Oh, okay.
I apologize if my eye contact was off for anyone. I appreciate all of your reports and for your efforts.
All right, I just have a couple of quick thoughts and things. So the teacher in me, the slide 3 spoke volumes to me, where you're talking about all supports start with building relationships first, right? Like, this is what we do as human beings, right? And so as a teacher myself, right, my job is to connect with kids, and a connected kid is going to be a kid who will not exhibit the types of behaviors. And we talked about some of those things, and I want you to know I really appreciate that you highlighted that relationship building piece first. Okay, I really do. You know, I will also say this out loud, and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to anyway. Sometimes when you have discipline issues with students, you want to know, right? Like, it could just be kind of unsatisfying to me at times, right? To be like, what happened to that person? What happened to that staff member? What happened to that kid? And what I really love that I heard tonight was that we talked about these are complicated matters, right? These are matters where student privacy and FERPA and Title IX and the law says that, look, we would love to tell you we did this, and this to this student, but we choose not to do that, one, because every student has the right to try to move forward, right? And that's part of the education piece for me. And number two, it's just like we're trying to learn and do better. And so anyway, I guess that's just a general comment for me, is that I have learned, especially as a board member, that sometimes I just have to have support for Steve, for the leadership team, and know that this presentation shows they're being thorough and thoughtful about the things they're doing. So that I guess that's my general. I did have a couple of questions. Lauren, thank you for speaking to feedback. I think that is a big deal. I like that Susan spoke to, you know, about like just, what was that about? I'm gonna move on. I like that Kara spoke to, like, you know, questions being answered by families and parents and those kinds of things. And then I like that Jennifer spoke to the idea of strengthening that parent education piece as well. All right. And so I guess the only thing that I would have a question of you guys is, how often are we involving our students in providing them an input opportunity about how we're doing on this, right? And what could we do, and how do we change it, and how do we involve the link crew? How do we involve leadership? How are we finding kids for the mediation piece? Like, I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about that piece.
I know, and Kara can add to this, I know that we, there are two surveys that students have access to. One is the Perceptions of Equity survey, where there are questions about whether or not students believe discipline is applied fairly. And we have looked at that and disaggregated it by identity in order to get a even closer picture to that. And then in the climate survey, students are also asked about that. So we do have some data in that regard. However, I don't think that since I've been here, I don't necessarily know that we have qualitative data from a focus group or input from particular student groups on that, which is something that we can absolutely do to get that feedback and involve students in.
Because, I mean, tonight we heard from a student who wants us to do better, right? And so, like, that, I would imagine there are students who could help us to do better and give us those insights of what it's like to be a student. What are the mechanisms that we have for reporting incidents when they occur? Okay to say comes to mind, some of those kinds of things. But what do we do that, you know, someone could support or directly tell Ashley, or directly tell Miss Gettner, or directly tell, you know, anyone, this is what's happening to me and help me. So anyway, that's all. Thank you for your presentation.
I do want
It
to
was
just
thorough.
highlight our wellness committee as well, which there
Yeah.
is an
Good
intersection
call.
between behavior and discipline and social emotional wellness in our environment in terms of our educational communities. And we do have students who sit on the wellness committee, and the wellness committee does some work around getting student input. Thank you.
Just real quick, I forgot the one highlighted thing in all caps to say. And it kind of goes with Brad, and I would like to see this. I don't know if you can get it to us, but what prevention, as far as like upstandard type of trainings, I know at the elementary levels, you know, it's like be nice and responsible and all of those types of things. But when in the middle school and high school hallways, people are hearing the N-word, the F word, like against LGBTQ children, and it's even children not, you know, it's come up about children who are possibly participating in this because they're seeing their friends do that, right? Like, how are we stepping in, like, not simply saying hate speech, right? What does that mean, and what does it look like for, you know, a peer to stand up? And so what are we doing there at, like, all levels? Because I think it's desperately needed, especially in the middle school and high school. Yeah, that's just... And yeah, if it could come later, that's fine. I just think it's like super important and kind of hits on some of the things Brad mentioned.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you say is that you'd like a more robust list than what we've provided you this evening, and I would be happy to get that for you because there's some really great work happening at the building level and some spaces where we've set some goals as well. Thanks.
I'd very much like to thank the 7 of you for your report this evening. Thank you so much, and answering our questions so well and pleasantly. Assuming no objections, I'd like to call a 10-minute recess and resume the meeting at 8:45, please, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Goodman, are we ready? We're ready to rock and roll. Thank you very much. Give me just a moment, please, and thank you. Right, we have some discussion items, and I'm going to pass this over to the chairperson of the policy committee for a brief update. They met this afternoon, and thank you.
So as many of you know, it has been several months and even years in some iterations that the currently titled controversial issue policy has been on the table, off the table, back on the table. And as of late, we have spent the last several months working through edits and revisions and getting lots of public comment in a variety of forms. We had an alternate style or format for a meeting to help guide or to help support more voices being heard. And then the last several meetings, we've had a variety of drafts. And at our last meeting, there was a request made for a legal opinion on the work that we had been doing. So we drafted questions or notes that we wanted legal to respond to. And Steve and I had an opportunity to meet with Rob Dietzel of the Thrun Law Firm. So we met and as per requested, these legal communications then are, it was requested that they be given to us in writing. Unfortunately, there was a delay from Thrun, and so we did not get these until today. So there hasn't been a lot of time from our team to completely digest or to look more thoroughly through these. So today at our meeting, we had an opportunity to review the policy as drafted or as revised by legal. We also compared that to the policy draft at the previous meeting, and we entertained some questions about the meeting that was not fleshed out in the opinion that was given to us from legal. There were a few items that were left off, and Steve and I will be preparing to document and record those items that were left off this opinion for the remainder of the committee. But with that being said, we've had ample opportunity for public opinion. We've had lots of meetings at the table, and now we have legal opinion. And so for a number of reasons, some being that there is a lot of other work that the policy committee needs to be doing too. And so, like for example, tonight we had 2 other really important policies that have been tabled for a while that we needed to bring back to the table, and they are pushed to the next meeting because we ran out of time. So with that said, as the policy chair, I am moving this current draft to the next. I'm requesting that it be placed on the next agenda. If there are members of the committee or other members of the board who have dissenting opinions, they are welcome to share those at that time. So on our next agenda in June, I'm requesting that President McVeigh put this policy on the agenda for a discussion of the full board.
And to clarify, it's not we.
I said I.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, okay, that's fine.
This is my report. Thank you.
Okay, but are you done?
I'm
or-
not. No, I'm not.
Okay, I just want to clarify that the committee was not part of
Thank
that
you. This
decision
is my
to
report,
move
Susan,
forward.
and
Okay.
I'm going to finish. Thank you. There is not a consensus to bring it to the table at this time. However, as the policy chair, it is my right and at my discretion to bring this to the board for further discussion. If it needs to come back to the policy committee after further discussion from the board, we can decide to do that at that time. That is the end of my report.
I do have a quick question for you regarding that. A few of us received the legal notes from Thrun. Would it be acceptable now to share to help inform the policy? Would it be wise to share that with the rest of the board then?
I have requested, and I believe the attorney-client privilege communications extend to the full board, and I do think that it would be helpful for the full board to read these, especially as it pertains to this policy and MCL 38010. I think it would be exceptionally helpful for the board to have these notes, and Steve is in agreement that we will send these to the rest of the board.
All right, thank you.
I have a comment.
The chair recognizes Susan Eastep.
Thank you. So like I said, that is a decision based on the chair. Didn't know there was any sort of right or discretion on that. I do want to say that, yes, we received from a request a month ago at the last meeting, received a 4-page response from Thrun. It wasn't inclusive of everything that we asked to be put together for questions. During our meeting, pieces of that were kind of thrown in from the meeting that occurred between the policy chair, legal, and the superintendent, but that's not information that we even had coming here today to the meeting. And also the draft that Thrun went through today, and from the draft from our last meeting, things were edited and moved around, and we were not able to see even what those changes were completely. So I do not feel that the committee is ready to move it forward in this format, but so I just want that to be on the record.
Thank you, Trustee Eastep. Yes, Vice President Stebbin. I thought the discussion was over, but guess not.
Nope,
That's fine.
nope, I have a discussion and I don't know if anybody else does. So Jenny, thank you. I appreciate the documents being sent to the full board. Not being a part of the policy committee and walking into a room with lots of folks, I would appreciate understanding a little bit more. I had let Michael and Steve, and I actually just let Jenny know I will not be here on June 13th. I have a required international trip for work. So while I don't want to pause any work of the board, I just wanted to signify that I won't be here. I won't be able to watch it live, but I will watch it. And I would look very forward to contributing to the discussion at a future meeting or whenever it's put on the agenda.
And as is the process, it will be at the board at least 2 times for discussion at the board table.
May I recommend that you could still pepper the policy committee with questions ahead of time? I believe that's acceptable. If you have any clarifying questions about the policy.
As long as we don't deliberate, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah. And as long as we get a draft, a revised draft.
Yes.
Yeah, because
once you see the draft.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll send the 2 drafts, the previous draft and the draft from legal.
Great. We are now at the administration/board updates. Do you have anything to report, Dr. Lutch?
Yes, a few items. Just want to thank everyone who was involved with the prom we had this past Saturday. They did an excellent job. I think the kids had a great time, which is really important as we close out the year. Also, we've been doing a great job with our kindergarten open houses, Young Fives and kindergarten open houses at all 3 of our buildings, with harvest happening tomorrow night. So I thank everybody who's involved in that to create welcoming environments for our, primarily our new families. In addition, I want to point out that tomorrow night I'm going to Y-High graduation, the International High School, and I think sometimes we forget that we have students in Saline that are part of our county-wide programs, and we want to make sure we recognize them too throughout. The other thing is we've been talking a lot about safety and security lately, and myself and working in conjunction with Mr. Ellis are going to be organizing a safety forum at the beginning of the next school year, so we can really bring the community together and talk about ways that we can all contribute to creating a safer Saline and a safer school district. And then finally, I'm looking forward to our upcoming graduation on June 4th.
EP. I do have a few quick notes, but I will start with our student representative, her last official statement. Thank you.
So first and foremost, just a preemptive happy Memorial Day, and the start of Pride Month is on June 1st. So, our next meeting is going to be on June 13th. So for people who choose to. happy celebration for those events, I suppose. Like Dr. Lott said, prom was on Saturday. As someone who did go to prom, it was really fun. The DJ was good this year. And culinary made some cupcakes, which were really good. I actually got to have a few extra ones on Monday because I know a few people in the kitchen. But yearbooks are being distributed at the high school today. And as someone who has a few friends on the yearbook, in the yearbook class, they've been very stressed all year, and they've been very frantic distributing the last few days. So for everyone who's helped make that happen, from the sponsors to the students in the yearbook classes, we see you, we appreciate you. I did yearbook in 8th grade, and it was too much for me. I can't imagine what it's like to do high school yearbook. For the seniors, we have 2.5 more days before our last day of high school. Graduation is going to be next Sunday, so big time to be a senior. And the Saline High School, we're having our extracurricular showcase on May 30th. So basically all the clubs at the high school are going to have like a little booth. And if you're an 8th grader or even a freshman, or if you just want to know what clubs we have there, it's a really great event to go to. And you will probably see me there for at least one of the things I'm in. So.
Thank you, Allison. Come by at the start of the 13th, the meeting, and maybe even later to get Ms. Stedman, and we'll sign your yearbook if you bring it. Special page just for us, right? I'll take me 3 weeks just to come up with something brilliant to say. They still do that, right? I'm going to jump ahead and say I want to say thank you to David Meller for inducting me. I received a Future Farmers of America degree, a special one, and a certificate just last week. It was a wonderful celebration. Dr. Ryan Rowe also received one. And I just want to compliment the incredible work that the FFA students at our school do. They're a remarkable group of people. And I do have one brief announcement. The Michigan Association of School Boards yesterday had a legislative coffee in the morning. Actually, it was a whole breakfast. And during the meeting, I was given this special envelope with a certificate of achievement for Susan Eastep and for taking 4 or more 200 or 300 level classes and gathering together a minimum of 208 educational credits, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I have to add tonight. Thank you. Go right ahead.
All right, real quickly, I want to thank our band and orchestra programs for the fantastic concerts that I was able to attend. My kid's a band kid, but I know that both programs do great things. And then I would say that this past week, I feel like I've seen like post after post after post recognizing some of the success of our sports programs and championships and SEC red titles and all of those kinds of things. So there's great things that are happening out there, and 11 and a half more days of school. So yay for that, kids. Keep going.
But who's counting?
Yes. I am. Brad, clearly.
Vice President, Secretary Miller.
Yes, so I just wanted to echo the sentiments about prom to our junior class officers. And so trying to navigate and plan prom has been a big load for them. And so they were very happy to see it come to fruition on Saturday and to see all of their friends and classmates enjoying themselves. The pictures, I think if you haven't seen them on MLive, I think the pictures speak 1,000 words or more. It looked like the kids were having a great time. So make sure you catch those. I also wanted to make a special mention tonight. My kids are juniors at the high school, so it's been an interesting couple of weeks. And one highlight in particular happened on Friday night. So I wanted to share this with you, that on Friday night, Officer Gassaway, our high school school resource officer, who is beloved by many and in fact has participated in our graduation ceremonies before at the request of students to hand them their diploma rather than one of us, which is great. We are happy to see that. But on Friday night, Officer Gassaway, after a couple of weeks of I'm sure emotional, and overtime hours, took the time out of his personal time to come to the dance recital on Friday night. And it was the evening show. And for those of you who are in dance, Dr. Washington remembers, the evening show is the long show. So he was there for over 3 hours watching them, and then came down afterwards to congratulate them and take pictures. And they abandoned their grandparents and siblings and friends who had come to watch the show in a rush to get to Officer Gassaway. They were chatting with him and talking with him and asking them what his favorite numbers were, and he was joking with them because when the high school student said, "What was your favorite number?" he named a number that they weren't in, and they were like, "Hey, we weren't in that number." And he smiled and said, "I know," and then named one of their numbers. But anyways, I just am so impressed with his connection to the students. He knew each one of them, not just their name, but their personal circumstances, and connects with them on a daily basis. When I asked my juniors, after returning to school, after a couple of tumultuous days, who their safe people were, Officer Gassaway, and I don't know if she's still here behind the podium, but Miss Deneen was one of their people that they mentioned, Jen Barnard, and Patty Waltz, amongst other teachers. But those people who are not in the classroom, who go out of their way to make those connections. I keep saying, as my kids are exiting their junior year and heading into their senior year, that it's all about the people. It's all about those connections and those experiences. And so after these couple of days, thank you to to Officer Gassaway and to each of the staff members who have gone the extra mile to help our students feel safe and supported in their school environment. So thank you.
Treasurer Gerby, Trustee Gold, Trustee Eastep. Go ahead.
I've been enjoying teaching junior achievement, so I just wanted to give Mrs. Finicaro and Mrs. Marshall's classes a shout out at Woodland Meadows. I wanted to say a very happy graduation to Allison, and shout out to all of our seniors. You are loved and will be missed, and wish you well in the world in whatever your endeavors are. And just a little bit of a call to action. Bridget and I were talking a little bit before I walked back in. Just a little call to action. Parents, students, be kind to the staff. It's the end of the year is very, very exciting, but it's a whole lot, and we're experiencing it in our house, and I'm sure everybody else is too. A lot of excitement, but let's all work together to finish the school year on a strong note. That's it. Congratulations.
Yes, there are a couple committee updates that I almost forgot, because that's what we typically talk about. So the DEI Advisory Committee met and will be meeting beginning of June. We will soon be putting out a call for applications. We'll be meeting to see what that will look like, because some members, because you could do two consecutive 2-year terms, and so, but it should kind of work out nicely with, people who maybe don't want to apply again and come off, and then we can open it up to more spots as well. And then the Sex Ed Advisory Board met. The one from the past 3 years met and kind of talked about some, things that they accomplished, and kind of recognizing that. And then a new chair will be coming on, which will be Assistant Principal Cameron Cochran, Assistant Principal from Heritage. And so he'll be taking that new role on. So I'm excited to help with law and board policy on that component as he needs. And that application process has been extended because there were not a lot of people to apply initially, so that was extended out to beginning of June. So if you want to apply a 3-year term, there's people who give a lot of time and energy and thoughtfulness on our committees, and I really appreciate that. And so look out for those applications that will be promoted, hopefully on social media, and we can also promote it as board members as well to get the word out for people to apply.
Thank you. And that deadline is now June 2nd. Thank you. Hearing nothing else, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is listed in this agenda and will not be read aloud. The motion noted will allow for the authorization of all listed items without discussion unless a member of the board requests that any one or all be considered individually. So I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize the consent agenda as printed.
So moves Debon.
Okay,
Support Miller.
thank you. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have a consent agenda. Thank you. Item scheduled on the next agenda, Dr. Lodge.
Only one meeting in June, so June 13th, budget hearing earlier at 6 p.m. And then district retirees, bond update, and the budget amendment.
Great, thank you. We have several, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 public comments, and I'm going to go in the order they were presented to me. Chen Ming Fan will be number first. And you know the rules, sir? Go ahead. Wait.
Sorry.
Good evening.
Hang, what, could,
Can
1
I
second.
start
Mr.
now?
Morrow.
Okay.
Change it where the student goes first.
All right, thank you. Pardon me, we're going, our student is going to go first, Aaliyah Corrao.
No, Correo.
Correo.
Yes.
Correo Taylor.
Yes, Correo Taylor, yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Aaliyah Correo Taylor. I'm a sophomore at Saline High School. I've been just listening to you guys speak about policies and everything that you guys go by. And I think when it comes to racism, the policy should extend a little bit. These students are receiving 1 day of ISS, their first offense, or 2 days of ISS, and they're not learning anything, but yet they're retaliating against minorities when they are when people report it. And I think something more should be done. I've been a victim of multiple racist things at Saline. I mean, since I've been here since 7th grade, I'm a sophomore now, and I could tell you guys countless stories of things I've dealt with and Saline's procedures to deal with it. When I speak up, I'm punished at the end of the day because I'm always suspended because of false retaliation, false accusations, used retaliation, and they go by the restorative conversations. And nothing is learned from those restorative conversations. They're just there to kind of speak. I mean, I've sat in kids' faces and talked, and we've kind of discussed what the problem is, but it's still taken further. Last year, for example, there was a party thrown about me. They put on their shirt, "I like Leah Correo." They did a white lie party. And I reported this to the school. I took it into the school, and they gave me a restorative conversation, and I thought everything was good, but it was taken to social media again, and they used my body to mock me on social media. And when I reported it to the school, the girl only got 1 day of lunch detention. And I received a suspension, I think 2 days later, for a false accusation. And that's when I say I'm a third-time defender, but for defending myself. I've defended myself, and for some reason, I'm always punished for it. I'm always put in the dark of everything, and it's always pushed under the rug, and it's not heard. And it's time something is heard, because it's not right to go inside of a school building and feel like you're walking in there not being human. You're walking in there as a target on your back. It's very uncomfortable. I've struggled academically for the past 2 years now at Saline area schools because of the racism I've dealt with. I came to school more focused on fitting in than my academics. I straightened my hair every day. I did certain things to just fit in with Saline students, when in reality I should just be myself. I am a minority. I am African American, and thank you. And we deserve to be heard, and I have a Black student union, and I plan on working with Saline as a district and as a community on growing, and I hope that
we can all come together and grow, because I attend on graduating from Saline, but it's really hard. I'm focused on graduating when I'm dealing with racism daily. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Changming Fan.
My name is Changming Fan. As usual, I said I am social entrepreneur locally. 100% satisfaction about your leadership, and extremely excited to see the wonderful student here present their wisdom, their hard work, with the support by all of you, especially the policy of Saline Star or Saline Campus. If you look at very carefully, to the ground, critical thinking. To the left of that, somehow we can zoom up, is globally connected. So therefore, I want to continue the concept of SIAM. You all remember Saline area young ambassadors. So this is the concept what I want to simplify into 9 characters. YAM, not war. Young ambassadors, not the war. While we're successfully reached this high, I think the best school, best board, best parents. But one thing we have to say, we are in a war. Not just coronavirus war, but also literally war. The young people in, what is that, Bankert or Kiev? It's not like we are lucky. So how are we going to do? Can we continue accelerating the war, use weapons or viruses, or we want to use the peaceful way? Send the young ambassadors. Imagine, student director Alice, another leader, 2 plus 8, black, white, 6 to, 12th grade, with parents participate, go to Beijing, go to Taipei, go to Kiev, to say that we come from America. We want to bring the peace. I just chatted with Dr. Washington. Why don't we see this thing again? Black singer, what's his name? Jackson. We are the world. We are the children. So right now, we have to think how peaceful time that was. I want to tell one thing. Do I have 30 seconds?
Yes, right now.
Okay.
15 seconds.
My personal experience is come to the United States. When I saw 29 American students from University of Michigan went to China, I would say, I want to go to United States. I'm here many years. So I know that until you globally connected, we're separated. So please, let's continue the good, not the ping pong, not the panda, but YAM, young ambassadors.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Fan. Megan Gunderson is up. I don't know if I should say Gunderson on deck or something like that. Don't want to
Again,
start.
you're probably like, again.
No.
So I stand before you again, specifically about the bullying policy. I did listen to Dr. Washington's presentation and the other administrators, and I am concerned that one of your students came and took the time to not speak just once, but twice about her experiences in the high school. Our family has had negative experiences with more than one child in more than one building in more than one academic year. So we all kind of personalize our experiences and hope for better in the community. I guess I believe that part of the algorithm might be restorative justice, but it can't be all of the algorithm. Behaviors keep escalating, and there needs to be a deterrent. At the policy meeting, or at a focus group, Dr. Latch also discussed that escalated behaviors are happening in the younger grades too. So it's concerning. When kids get frustrated, they act out more. I have concerns for continued violence in the high school and in the middle school. Dr. Washington, one of your presentations, you talked about that the kids decrease their numbers of reporting of incidents. I don't believe for one instance that the incidents are actually going down. I think that the kids are just fed up. And perception really is everything. The perception in your community is that there's a double standard. Repeatedly, we've seen repeat offenders who are part of specific programs or have certain ties to the community who are treated differently than other kids who are participating in the same less than best choices. Again, I would just encourage that whatever your algorithm is for discipline, that it actually include discipline in addition to restorative practices. I liken it to a PIP in the community. When I put people on a performance improvement plan, there are positive and progressive benchmarks, and then eventually there's disciplinary action. I don't see that second piece. And while I understand that the students deserve confidentiality, kids talk. And right now they're talking about nothing happening, and it's just a continuation of day in and day out, and nothing happens. Fights are real and they're scary, and we closed our school for 2 days because of a threat, and it was credible, and it is frightening to send your kids every day.
Thank you. And Jeffers, Dr. Jeffers.
I'm feeling a little bit emboldened by the student who presented tonight. And so, as you all know, I'm Susan Estep's wife, and I'm here to say the things that she's not able to say as a board member. I do want to apologize that this short speech has some language in it, as well as a mention of suicide. So my child is 12 years old, and she is transgender. And I want to give you a sense of what it looks like on the ground as a parent, as having a student in the schools. So the framework that was presented by Dr. Washington and others, it all sounds great, and it all sounds like, yes, this is going to solve the bullying problem. But the reality is that in the past year, she has been kicked, pinched to the point of being bruised, shoved into lockers, spat at, called a faggot and a retard, dead named, misgendered, and so on. Our child has reported these incidents to adults in the school building. She has filled out reports. We as parents have reported the incidents to the school administration, the building administration, and we've even met with the school principal. And the school acts in some incidents, and in others it doesn't do anything. And in the times when it doesn't do anything, our case is called, quote, unsubstantiated, or a firsthand account is not enough. We need video evidence. We need to, whatever. So it just gets brushed aside. And the bullying continues. And I want to let you know the impact that this has had on our child. So as of October, I want to paint a picture for you. I was sitting in the car with my child, and it was October, so the leaves were changing. It was a windy day, and my child had lost it. She started crying, and I pulled the car over. She looked me in the eyes, and she said, "Please, Mom, I don't want to live anymore. Please just kill me." And that was the night, probably the second of 4 evenings that we ended up in the psychiatric ER. So, I'm here tonight to tell you that the bullying has real consequences, and it does real harm to these children. Our child is in a much better place now, but as we heard tonight, several individuals have talked about bullying in the schools. There was a city council meeting on May 15th where a student talked about bullying in the Saline schools again. And so why is it so persistent, right? Why is it keep happening? And so my question to you is, what can we do to take that nice framework that was presented tonight and to actually put it into action and to stop the bullying? I was asked at one point, why do you stay in Saline? Why do you keep your schools, your kids in the Saline schools? And I just want to let you know that this is where we bought our house, and we're committed to the district. We have so many positive things to report about the Saline schools. Susan and I really are committed to the Saline schools, and we want our kids to grow up here, and we want to bring about change. But at the same time, what we've experienced this past year has just been unbearable. And so I think this is sort of a last-ditch effort of bringing it to the school board tonight. Hopefully, you all will take it seriously, and I'm happy to continue the conversation at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last public comment is Sarah Castellanos. Thank you.
I have to start by saying I hate public speaking, so this is really hard for me to even come up here and say. But I'm relating to people in here, and especially my son was sexually assaulted on multiple occasions, and I feel like nothing was done. He's 12, loves school more than anything, and I just feel like I've lost him a little bit. His incident, one of them was caught on camera. Nothing was done to these kids. I do feel like I can relate to what Lauren said about, you know, what's done at home. Is there something done at home with these kids? Obviously, there's something wrong. There's something going on with them. But if we're just doing these restorative conversations, what's happening to these kids at home? Are they writing something? What are we doing? What is happening behind the scenes? I didn't write anything tonight. I don't speak. I don't do this. This is not my territory. But as a mom of a kid who has been assaulted on more than one occasion and finally came to me and told me, and finally told the administration, and finally we ended up going to the police, and he's speaking like an unbelievably brave child. He sees nothing done. He goes back to school and the same things are happening, not to him, but to other kids, and he sees it and he can't do anything about it. And these are sexual assault incidences. It is bullying. It's horrific. And I'm asked the same thing. Why are you here? Why on earth are you staying here? I grew up here. My family's here. My home is here. My friends are here. His friends are here. He loves school, but I want to homeschool him. And I listen to this all night long, and I don't know what to feel. I feel like there's a lot of talk about positive things. I feel very deeply that these teachers are having a difficult time. I don't know. I guess I'm here because I just wanted to hear what happens at these meetings. I've never been. To me, this was a good one for me to come to. And I would also like to see how much of this is actually going on. I want to know. I want more to happen. These conversations aren't enough, period. So, that's it.
Thank you very much. The next meeting, the next Board of Education meeting will be held June 13th at 6:30 p.m. here. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the regular education meeting, Board of Education meeting of May 23rd at 9:23.
So moved, Stebbin.
Second, Gary.
Second, Gary, all in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, everybody. You may